Hello friends, welcome back to another episode of our series entitled People, where people believe the world revolves around them. Today I have 9 stories for you. You'll hear about people touching babies without permission, a fierce wife putting an entitled couple in their place, a Karen who doesn't think young people can be disabled, and we'll finish with an entitled military wife who thinks she's owed more than she deserves. I hope you stay for these stories and subscribe for future videos. This story is titled, Co-worker thinks she's entitled to my baby. I had to run to the store to get formula and decided to bring my 9-week-old baby with me. It was my first time taking her anywhere other than the doctor's, so I was a bit nervous. I decided to carry her and keep her covered since I was only grabbing one thing. I grabbed the formula and headed to the checkouts when a CO worker spotted me. I didn't see her, but she came straight over and tried to uncover my baby without even saying anything to me. I put my hand out, stopped her, and asked what she was doing. She said she wanted to see and hold the baby since I hadn't posted much on social media. I told her the proper way would be to ask, and even if she had, I would have said no because it's flu season and I don't want people in her face or holding her. She muttered something under her breath and walked off. I headed to the checkouts. A couple of hours after I got home, I was scrolling through Facebook and saw that she had made a post about me. It read, "I saw Op at the store today, and she shoved me away saying I can't hold her baby. I couldn't even look at her baby. Parents need to stop being so selfish with their babies. Sometimes a baby's smile is what a person needs to make it through the day. Stop being selfish." Although I really wanted to respond to her post, I stopped myself. Why do some people think babies are public property? No one is entitled to my baby except me and her father. This story is titled, My Wife is a Rock Star. My wife and I are senior citizens. In other words, we're old. My dear wife is a strong, independent, take-no-nonsense type of woman, and I adore her for it. She keeps me in line, pushes me to be a better man, and is the reason behind my modest success in life. She's sarcastic, wickedly smart, can curse like a sailor, and as she gets older, her filter is practically non-existent. A few months ago, we decided to treat ourselves. We made reservations and went to a rather high-end restaurant with a maitre d', sommeliers, and highly trained waitstaff. My wife, though in her 70s, has very little gray hair and could pass for 55. She was wearing a beautiful white lace blouse, flattering black pants and black flats, and she looked stunning. When we arrived, there was no line, surprisingly, and the maitre d' had apparently stepped away from the podium. We were waiting there, my wife standing next to the podium and me sitting on one of the benches, when another couple walked in. Without missing a beat, the man approached the podium and said to my wife, "Rockefeller, not their real name. We have reservations for 2. My wife replied that she was sure someone would be with them shortly. The woman huffed, and the man said, "Please seat us now." My wife told them she was waiting to be seated herself, but the man repeated, "Seat us now." So my wife looked at me, smiled, and said, "Right away, walk this way." She led them behind her, walking a circle around the partition separating the entrance from the dining area, then back to the entrance. Pointing to the bench, she said, "Sit down." The man looked like he was about to explode, and my wife repeated, "I don't work here, you jerk. You want me to seat you? Sit down." As the couple sputtered, and before things could escalate further, the maitre d' arrived. We gave our name, and he led us away. There was no yelling or threats of police, and we had a wonderful meal. The other couple was seated several tables away, shooting us dirty looks now and then. Now, before you say my wife overreacted and could have explained she didn't work there more politely, she has a wicked sense of humor and can't stand fools. She loves being a smart aleck and is so good at it. It's one of the reasons, after all these years, I still love being put in my place by her when I get a little too out of line. This story is titled, Karen Assumes Young People Can't Be Disabled. Oh my goodness, this title is unreal. For context, I'm 20 years old, a typical blonde-haired, blue-eyed, relatively innocent-looking girl. I'm also disabled. I have a condition that doctors can't diagnose, but basically, my ribs or the cartilage surrounding them become severely inflamed and excruciatingly painful. Several times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, my ribs send so many pain signals to my brain that it tells my lungs to stop breathing. It's a logical thought process. Breathing equals pain, pain equals bad, so let's just not breathe. As you can imagine, this causes a lot of issues. Despite not being able to turn at the waist or bend down to pick something up without crying in pain, I now have to focus on breathing to avoid accidentally suffocating myself. Now, to the story. I live in the UK, and my main mode of transport is the bus. mainly because they have great seating for disabled people, and I don't have to walk far in my condition. I was having a flare-up, barely able to breathe without consciously pushing my lungs in and out, and it was extremely painful. Imagine wearing a corset with metal pipes digging into your body, and every breath makes them dig deeper. That's me. I somehow managed to get on the bus, showed the driver my return ticket, and practically collapsed into the disabled chairs at the front. In the UK, these are called priority seats, and you're required to give them to disabled, elderly, or pregnant people. It's a great system. Enter Karen. She strolled onto the bus, bleached hair messed from the wind, coat looking disheveled. She didn't even glance at the bus driver as she handed over her ticket, her glare fixed on me the entire time. To save time, I'll refer to myself as OP, Karen as K, and a nice lady who helped me as NL. K said, "Could I have that seat, please?" I, barely able to breathe, let alone speak loudly, said, "Sorry, I need it." K responded, "It's a priority seat. You're supposed to give it to people more in need than yourself." I replied, "But I am in need. There are plenty of other seats, please." She interrupted, "You're not in need. You're clearly not pregnant, and you're certainly not old." I said, "I'm disabled." Kay rolled her eyes and said, "Of course you are. I know you young people like to identify with things nowadays, but you can't just say you're disabled when you're not. Let me see a blue badge then." "A blue badge is a permit for parking in disabled bays or on double yellow lines." I replied, I don't drive. That's why I'm taking the bus." Kay scoffed, "Well, isn't that convenient?" She then tried to pull me off the chair. I blocked one of her arms but missed the other, which grabbed my shirt and pulled. Her fist collided with my ribs, and I screamed. It hurt so much that I was crying and curled up in agony. NL shouted, "Oh my goodness, you jerk!" Kay looked smug, thinking NL was on her side, but NL said, "Are you okay? Do I need to call an ambulance or the police?" Kay now looked confused. I said, "I just want to get home." I was close to a panic attack, unsurprisingly, since my body failing me repeatedly has caused significant anxiety. I wanted to get back to my support dog at home. The bus driver was now looking up, wondering about the raised voices. Kay said, "She's lying. She's not disabled. She's too young to be disabled. She can't be disabled." Kay looked slightly panicked as the entire bus started tutting at her. I said aloud that my stop was coming up. It really wasn't, but I was too anxious to stay in that environment. NL said, "Okay, sweetie, we'll get you to your stop." NL then glared at Kay, pointed to a chair, and said, "You practically attacked her. You're lucky she doesn't want to sue you for harassment or something. I wish I could sue you for sheer ignorance." Kay started to open her mouth, but the bus driver was about to get out of his chair to handle the situation. Kay's skinny little backside hit a chair before you could say entitled people. NL persuaded me to stay until my actual stop and chatted with me on the way home. "Silly Karens! I still can't believe she said young people can't be disabled. Oh my goodness!" This story is titled "Karen Wears Her Husband's Rank." This didn't happen to me, but I witnessed it. Here's some background. I live in San Diego, where we have a large naval base. I hope you can see where this is going. I was at a store when a lady was shouting at the cashier, berating him and calling him all sorts of slurs. The cashier, who looked about my age, 21, seemed nervous and struggled with social skills. He tried to talk, but she kept yelling. She said, "What do you mean I can't use the military discount?" The cashier replied, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but..." She cut him off, saying, "Do you know who my husband is? He's a high-ranking officer in the military." The cashier said, "I understand, but you yourself aren't military. I'm not sure how military discounts work or how this store handles it." Boy, this lady needed to calm down. As she yelled, she messed up and used some very offensive words. She said, "You stupid kid, learn how to do your job. All you millennials are lazy and can't get a real job. People like you don't deserve to live and should rot, you stupid." Okay, I have to stop there. According to OP, she used a racial slur. I was about to step in, but a man in front of me spoke up. I hadn't noticed, but he was in his naval uniform. With a deep, commanding voice, he silenced Karen and said, "Ma'am, you need to stop right there. What you're doing is inhumane and entitled. I'm not serving our country for people like you to berate others. You can't wear your husband's rank. He's serving the country, not you. You don't get to use a discount for something you didn't earn." Kay said, "Who are you? My husband is certainly a high-ranking officer, and you can't talk to me like that." He replied, "I don't care what your husband is. I'm a rank higher than your husband, and I'll see that he gets a warning for this behavior. If you want him to keep his job, you need to stop wearing his rank. Do you understand me?" Karen nodded, looking like she'd just messed up big time. He continued, "Now apologize to this young man. He's free to be who he is, and you will give me your husband's name." Karen apologized to the cashier, provided her husband's name and other information, and walked away with her head hanging in shame. The cashier thanked the man and gave him the military discount plus an additional discount for helping him. The lesson of the day? Don't wear your spouse's rank and expect the same treatment. Your spouse is the one serving the country, not you. This story is titled, "Sister Wears Her Own Wedding Dress to Someone's Wedding." I've been holding on to this first story for a few years now and decided it was time to finally share it. This happened back at the beginning of 2017. The cast includes John, my brother, Jane, my sister-in-law, Susan, my half-sister, and me. In 2016, my brother announced that he and his girlfriend of many years were engaged and planning a wedding for the following year. They gave 9 months' notice to everyone invited and specified that the wedding's color theme would be purple. In the time between the announcement and the wedding date, I easily ordered a dress from an online retailer in London, had it shipped to me, and still had time to replace it if needed, which I didn't. So, 2017 arrives, and the wedding weekend is here. The wedding was absolutely gorgeous, a sunny day on the beach. I couldn't help but cry because my wonderful brother was marrying the mother of his children, the love of his life. He had never seemed happier. John and Jane had 3 kids together, and the older 2 were flower girls, which was incredibly sweet. Now, John is technically my half-brother. We share a mom but not a dad. Growing up, my dad raised both John and me, so to him, my dad was his dad. My dad, before marrying my mom, had a first wife and a couple of kids with her, including Susan. John and I have always had issues with Susan. She's only my half-sister, not John's, but he still included her in the wedding as a family member and guest. I hadn't noticed at the time, caught up in the whirlwind of my brother's wedding ceremony, but Susan wasn't wearing purple. No, she was wearing white. To be specific, she was wearing her own white wedding dress to someone else's wedding. John and Jane were furious, especially Jane. At the reception, some people changed clothes. It was my first wedding, so I didn't think to change and still wore my soft lilac dress without any issues. While everyone ate, shared drinks, and interacted with the bride and groom, normal wedding activities, Susan was feeling extremely sad and lonely because no one was paying attention to her. This 30-plus-year-old woman who wore her wedding dress to someone else's wedding began crying halfway through the reception, openly, loudly, and in a way that clearly begged for attention. I'm a nice person, so I tried to be the good half-sister and sat with her for a while, asking what was wrong. Susan said, "No one is paying attention to me." Staring at her a bit confused, I replied, "What do you mean?" Susan responded, "Everyone's talking with John and Jane, but nobody is talking to me. When I try to speak with John and Jane, they don't talk to me." I sighed internally, wondering how she couldn't connect the dots. I said, "Susan, it's their wedding. Of course, everyone's going to be talking to them, and they're going to be busy." Susan replied, "I don't care. I'm John's sister, so he should talk with me more." "Actually, lady, you're not his sister. I am, but whatever." I slipped away to spend time with other family members who weren't acting like the day was all about them. After the ceremony, Jane admitted to me that she was livid about Susan wearing the wedding dress. Susan had plenty of time to plan and get appropriate attire, but when confronted, she claimed she had no other dress to wear. This might seem like a boring tale to some, but even 3, nearly 4 years later, I'm still upset with my half-sister for doing that. My mom, John, and Jane are also still upset about it. I've since cut contact with Susan. We never had a good bond anyway. As far as I'm concerned, we just share a dad, and I rarely had to deal with my dad's previous family. John and Jane have limited contact with her, but that can't be helped since they live in the same city as her now. I happily live an ocean away from her. What in the world? Wearing her own wedding dress to someone else's wedding and crying because nobody's paying attention to her? That's absolutely ridiculous, my friends. What's the craziest thing you've ever seen someone wear to a wedding? I'd love to know. This story is entitled, Mom Wants Me to Change My Dog's Name. This next story is so outrageous and happened to me about 10 minutes ago. I couldn't walk home fast enough to get to Wi-Fi and share this. For some background, I live in Argentina and am an advanced student in English teaching. I have 4 dogs, one of whom is named Monkey. Before the lockdown was enforced in March, I used to tutor a 5-year-old boy in English to give him a head start for his school's English classes. His mother, whom I'll call entitled mother, said the kid was insecure about starting school and wanted him to feel accomplished and smart by being ahead of his classmates. Weird logic, but okay, she paid me well, and the kid genuinely enjoyed the language and activities, so tutoring him was enjoyable for both of us. Fast forward to today, I took my dog Monkey for a walk, and we ran into the mother and her son at the park. The kid was thrilled to meet one of my dogs at last, as I'd talked about them and shown him pictures before. He was very polite, asking what her name was, how old she was, and if he could pet her. When I told him my dog's name was Monkey, he was excited to share that he knew what the word meant because they'd learned about animals in his classes. The mother, however, was less thrilled. She started questioning why I named my dog another animal, asking if I did it to show off my English skills or if I realized it could be confusing. I asked what she meant by confusing, thinking she was referring to the dog's gender. But she said, and I'm quoting, "Why would you try to confuse my son by naming a dog as another animal? He's trying hard to learn things in English because you encouraged him, and now whenever he hears the word monkey, he'll think of your dog." I tried to explain why I chose the name, but she insisted I change my dog's name to something more dog-like, so children like her son wouldn't be confused about animals. She even suggested names, and told her son to try calling Monkey other names to see if she'd respond. I was tempted to say something sharp, like maybe she needed a name change for being so unreasonable, but I held back because her kid was there, and I didn't want a public argument. Realizing she wasn't getting anywhere, the mother quickly said a greeting, took her kid, and left. What a silly lady. Hey, why don't you change your dog's name because it's confusing my little kid? A dog shouldn't be called another animal. This lady would probably lose it if she heard that my other dog's name is Tofu. Here's a sweet picture of the pup for all who care. This story is titled, Snobby Lady Demands We Open on Christmas. A couple of years ago, before I moved apartments, I worked as a cashier at a local grocery chain. I had the misfortune of working on Christmas Eve, but luckily, I was out by 12 noon. That Christmas Eve morning was rainy and cold, and since I was near the exit, I constantly felt a breeze of chilly, wet air. I'd been working the past 4 days to get the following week off for New Year's Eve. Things were going smoothly until I met my first difficult customer of the day, whom I'll call Snobby Lady. I greeted her, saying, "Hello, find everything all right?" She replied, Yes, I did. It's nice and cold outside, but I'm not liking the rain." I agreed, saying, "Yeah, me neither. Hopefully it doesn't rain tomorrow on Christmas Day." Snobby Lady said, "I know. I'm going to have to come back here early to get some more things for lunch and dinner for my family tomorrow." I noted that we were closed on Christmas Day, as we always have been, with signs posted at every register stating we'd reopen the next day. I said, "Oh, well, you should get those items now or later today. We're going to be closed tomorrow. It's Christmas Day." She responded, "Oh no, I'll just come tomorrow." I clarified, "Ma'am, we're closed tomorrow. It's Christmas Day. I have things I need to buy." She demanded to speak to the manager. At this point I thought, great, I shouldn't have said that. My manager arrived and asked how he could help. Snobby Lady said, pointing at my name tag, "Your employee said you are closed tomorrow. I demand the store be open. I have things to buy and I am the customer." The manager explained, "Sorry, ma'am, but we have signs posted all over the store stating that we're closed, and they've been up for 2 weeks now. I suggest you buy what you need now." She was taken aback and said, "I know, and I will make sure you and this cashier get fired for turning away a customer. Enjoy being jobless on Christmas." My manager paid little attention to her and asked her to leave if she was going to continue harassing him and his employees. This story is titled, My Sister Demands We Share My Daughter. This next story happened a few years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday, and I still can't understand what my sister was thinking. A little backstory: my sister and I had to share everything as kids. I was forced to act like a second mother to her and our younger brother, but I'll save that for another post. As kids, I was happy to share sweets, snacks, and toys, the usual kid stuff. There's a 4-year age gap between us. I'm the oldest. As you can probably guess, when I hit my teen years, I wanted my own things and time alone. Nope, she wanted to do everything with me. I could barely spend 10 minutes in the bathroom before she'd start banging on the door. Unfortunately, when I was about 15, my siblings and I were taken into foster care and separated from our brother. It was tough for both of us, and for a while, I didn't mind my sister wanting to spend all her time with me. But shortly after my 16th birthday, I craved my own space and things that were mine. She'd argue with me over not sharing, leading to typical sibling fights and yelling almost every other day. We eventually outgrew those squabbles, but she developed an entitled, the world owes me attitude that drove me crazy. I did my best to stay patient, but I'm human, and sometimes I snapped. A couple of years after my daughter was born, my sister and I weren't talking much because of her selfish behavior and how most of my time and income went to my daughter. During one of the times we were on good terms, she was over for the weekend. Everything was fine until a conversation led to her saying she was going to take my daughter for a week because she wanted to spend time with her, claiming it was her turn. I said, "That's not going to happen. She's my daughter, not a dollar pet we share." She got mad and started yelling, arguing that she had parental rights and that social services would force me to let her take my daughter whenever she wanted. I laughed and told her to get out and not come back. Honestly, I don't know if she genuinely believed she had a right to my daughter. I've got plenty more wild stories about my family that I might share later. Thanks for reading my crazy story. This story is titled, I Have to Leave a Tip for a High School Dropout. This last story is another wild one. I work as a barista at a small cafe, 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's a great job with hours that fit my college schedule, and the customers are generally fantastic. In the 8 months I've been on the job, I've only dealt with a handful of rude customers. About 2 weeks ago, one lady's comment still baffles me. Our point-of-sale system uses Square, which processes credit and debit cards on an iPad. It's neat and includes a feature that prompts customers to select a tip amount or no tip before signing to authorize the sale. Most people don't mind and think it's cool, and it really boosts our tips. Except for one customer, let's call her clueless. She didn't notice the no tip option and started yelling at me saying, "What's this? I have to leave a tip for some uneducated barista? Cancel the order, cancel everything. I'm never coming back here again. This is extortion." I calmly explained, "Ma'am, there's an option below the dollar amounts that allows you to process the transaction without leaving a tip." I helped her find it, and she said, "Oh, I see. Now you're trying to make me feel like a bad person." Well, it hasn't worked, missy. I don't believe in tipping uneducated people who refuse to get a real job. I haven't tipped anyone in the last 10 years. I asked, "Okay, do you still want to cancel the order?" She replied, "Absolutely, and give me back my credit card." She stormed out in a rage. I wished her a good day, and she snapped that she'd have a bad one just to spite me. As a reader dropping a comment on these stories, I'm absolutely loving the mix of savage clapbacks, entitled meltdowns, and pure petty justice. These tales are a roller coaster of frustration and satisfaction, with some truly wild moments. Here's my take on each, written like I'm chiming in on a forum. CO worker thinks she's entitled to my baby? Oh my gosh, the audacity of this coworker trying to uncover OP's baby without even asking? That's next-level boundary violation. The Facebook rant about selfish parents is peak entitlement. Lady, babies aren't public property for your mood boost. OP keeping their cool and not engaging online was the right move, but man, that post must have been tempting to clap back at. The commenter's point about babies not being for everyone's amusement is so true. Gotta wonder how this coworker functions at work with that attitude. Anyone else dealt with someone acting like they're entitled to your kid? My wife is a rock star. This wife is an absolute legend. The couple demanding she seat them at a fancy restaurant thinking she's the maitre d'? Big mistake. Her leading them in a circle and telling them to sit down is the kind of sharp-witted sass I aspire to. The jerk line was the perfect cherry on top. Bet that guy's ego was bruised. Love how Oppie admires her take-no-nonsense vibe. She sounds like a blast. The commenter's note about her not needing to be polite is spot on. Rude people don't deserve kid gloves. Got any other stories of a spouse shutting down entitled fools like this? Karen assumes young people can't be disabled. This one makes my blood boil. Karen physically grabbing Oppie, a disabled 20-year-old, to yank her from a priority bus seat? That's assault, plain and simple. Her "you're too young to be disabled" nonsense is infuriatingly ignorant. Disabilities don't have an age limit. The nice lady stepping in and the bus driver's reaction were heartwarming, though. OP's pain sounds awful, and it's inspiring they kept it together. The commenter's shock at Karen's "young people can't be disabled" claim is so relatable. What a clueless jerk. Anyone else faced ableist Karens like this on public transport? Karen wears her husband's rank. Wow, this Karen using her husband's military rank to bully a cashier over a discount is next-level entitlement. The naval officer shutting her down with "you can't wear his rank" was so satisfying. Bet she wasn't expecting a higher-ranking officer to call her out. Forcing her to apologize and give her husband's details? Perfect. The cashier's extra discount for the officer was a nice touch. The commenter's lesson about not claiming unearned status is spot on. Karen learned the hard way. Got any stories of someone trying to flex someone else's credentials and getting owned? Sister wears her own wedding dress to someone's wedding. Susan wearing her own wedding dress to her half-brother's wedding. That's a jaw-dropping level of attention-seeking. Crying at the reception because nobody's fawning over her? Yikes. OP trying to be nice but realizing she's clueless was relatable. Some people can't handle not being the center of attention. The bride's fury is so justified. Susan had 9 months to pick a purple dress. The commenter's shock is right. Wearing a white dress to someone else's wedding is wild. What's the most outrageous wedding guest behavior you've seen? Entitled Mom wants me to change my dog's name. This mom demanding OP change their dog's name because it confuses her kid learning English? Absolutely bonkers. Monkey is a cute name and the kid was thrilled. Mom's just projecting her weird control issues. OP holding back for the kid's sake was classy, but I bet they wanted to suggest she rename herself Entitled. The commenter's quip about tofu sending her over the edge had me laughing. What's next, banning all non-dog names? Anyone else had a neighbor try to control something this ridiculous? Snobby lady demands we open on Christmas. This lady insisting the grocery store open on Christmas Day because she needs to shop is peak Karen energy. Threatening to get OP and the manager fired over a clearly posted closure? Delusional. The manager's calm buy it now or leave response was perfect. Love when they don't cave. The commenter's frustration with her entitlement is so real. Christmas is for family, not last-minute shopping. Ever had a customer demand you break holiday rules for them? My sister demands we share my daughter. This sister claiming parental rights to OP's daughter like she's a toy to borrow is unhinged. The it's my turn argument is so childish. Does she think kids are timeshares? OP kicking her out was the only move. Good for them for setting boundaries. The backstory about her entitled attitude growing up explains a lot. Some people never outgrow it. The commenter's tease about more family drama has me curious. Spill those stories, OP. Anyone else had a family member try to claim their kid like this? I have to leave a tip for a high school dropout? Clueless lady freaking out over a tip prompt and calling OP an uneducated barista is so rude it hurts. Her I haven't tipped in 10 years brag is just embarrassing. Bet she's a nightmare everywhere. OP calmly pointing out the no-tip option while she raged was pro-level patience. The commenter's take on her trying to scam a free coffee is probably right. She sounds like the type. Gotta wonder how she functions in society. Any other baristas dealt with tip-hating Karens like this? I hope you enjoyed the stories in this episode. If you aren't subscribed, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for future videos. Please let me know in the comments below what you thought of these stories, and I'll see you in the next one.